Notes on the Minor Prophets, Haggai, Chapter 1. By H. A. Ironside. Consider your ways. The date given in verse 1 is in harmony with the statement recorded in Ezra 4 verse 24. There we learn that, owing to the opposition of the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin, the work of rebuilding the house of the Lord ceased unto the 2nd year of Darius, king of Persia. As the letter which resulted in a prohibition to continue was written in the reign of Artaxerxes, several years had elapsed in which nothing had been accomplished. A period of lethargy had set in, which only came to an end when a God-appointed ministry was given to stir up the consciences of the people. In the year above referred to, on the 1st day of the 6th month, Haggai addressed himself to the rulers, Zerubbabel the governor, who was of David's line, and Joshua the high priest, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, This people say, The time is not come, the time that the Lord's house should be built. Verses 1, 2. It is evident from this that they were only too ready to refrain from the work, and that had there been the energy of faith, the decree of Artaxerxes, apparently contradicting that of Cyprus, would have been no real hindrance. The unalterable character of Persian decrees rendered the second one invalid had it really repealed the first. But already self-seeking, and consequent listlessness as to the things of God, had come in. Hence they could build their own houses while neglecting the house of the Lord. But Artaxerxes' decree, rightly read, contained no direct prohibition against building the temple, but rather was directed against restoring and fortifying the city. When the conscience is not active, people readily interpret circumstances to suit themselves, and at such times it is often amazing the amount of energy that will be expended on that which ministers to one's own comfort, whereas utter indifference characterizes that which is connected with the Lord's glory. Thus saints have time and means for much that does not profit, who find it difficult to get a few hours for a meeting, or to spare of their means for the furtherance of the gospel. Once let the conscience be in exercise, and all will be in place. Is it time for you, O ye, to dwell in your sealed houses, and this house lie waste? Is the Lord's challenge through his prophet. No Persian decree hindered their providing warm and even expensive houses for themselves, but it was readily made the excuse for indifference to what should have had the first place in their thoughts. Verses 3, 4. Now therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, Consider your ways. Ye have sown much, and bring in little, ye eat, but ye have not enough, ye drink, but ye are not filled with drink, ye clothe you, but there is none warm, and he that earneth wages to put it into a bag with holes. Verses 5, 6. This is all intensely solemn. May reader and writer weigh it well. Undoubtedly it gives the secret of many failures and disappointments among Christians today, as well as among the Jews of old. God cannot bless self-seeking. He calls on each one to consider your ways. The Hebrew reads, Set your heart on your ways. It is a summons to self-judgment, for the ways manifest the state of soul. We may look at it as entering into every ramification of the life. Consider your ways, ye who have to do with the commercial world in its present conditions. How much is often tolerated among us that would not bear the all-searching eyes of him who seeth not as man seeth. The covetous spirit of the age is eating the very life out of many companies of the Lord's people. The grasping avariciousness everywhere prevalent in the world is making dreadful inroads among Christians. Alas, how much is sacrificed for money! Christian fellowship, the joys of gathering at the table of the Lord, gospel work, and privileges of mutual edification and instruction in divine things, all are parted with often simply because the opportunity arises of adding a few paltry dollars to the monthly income and savings. Brethren with families even will leave a town or city where the spiritual support and fellowship of their brethren is found, and where their children have the privileges of the gospel meeting and the Sunday school, simply because they see, or fancy they see, an opportunity to better their earthly circumstances. Alas, in many instances they miss all they had hoped for, and lose spiritually what is never regained. Consider your ways in the home life. What place do you give the things of God there? Is the Bible habitually neglected, and the knee seldom bowed in prayer before the children? What wonder then if they grow up to think lightly of what you seem to place so slight a valuation upon? Do you discuss servants of Christ and the people of God in a cold, hard, critical manner before these same children? Then do not be surprised if they learn to despise all ministers of the word, and lightly esteem all those that bear the name of Christ. Consider your ways in connection with the service of the Lord and the assembling of his people. Do trifles keep you from the assemblies of God's people for the remembrance of our Lord and his sufferings for us? Or do you neglect the preaching of the word on the plea that it is only the gospel? Are you generally missed at the prayer meeting, and seldom found at the Bible reading? Is it months, or years, since you handed out a tract, or spoke to others of Christ? How then can you expect God's blessing to be on you and your plans while you are so indifferent to him and his purposes? Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Go up to the mountain, and bring wood, and build the house, and I will take pleasure in it, and I will be glorified, saith the Lord. Verses 7, 8. Aroused from the deadening effects of self-seeking, judge yourself and your past loose ways in God's presence, then, put first things first, as one has said, and give the Lord the supreme place in heart and life. Because of the lack of this purpose of heart to cleave to him, he could not bless as he otherwise would, hence, ye looked for much, and, lo, it came to little, and when ye brought it home, God blew upon it, and it fled away. Did you wonder why failure succeeded failure, and plan after plan did not result as you hoped? Because God was not given his place, his house is neglected, therefore the heaven over you is stayed from dew, and the earth is stayed from her fruit, and drought and barrenness prevail in place of blessing and refreshment. Verses 9 to 11. The effect of Haggai's words was at once manifest. Oh, that this rehearsal of them may also be used to the arousing of those of us who are sleeping among the dead. Both leaders and people forthwith obeyed the voice of the Lord their God, and the neglected work was at once resumed. Verse 12. Then spake Haggai, the Lord's messenger in the Lord's message unto the people, saying, I am with you, saith the Lord. Verse 13. It was a word of cheer and encouragement, and the way it is introduced is very fine, the Lord's messenger in the Lord's message. It is quite possible to be truly the Lord's messenger, and yet to miss the Lord's mind. To give his message, one must be in touch with himself. Such was Haggai's happy state. Aroused by the stirring call to consider their ways, and comforted by the knowledge of the Lord's presence with them, the remnant went willingly to work, so that the actual labor on the house of God was resumed in 24 days, verses 14, 15. The next chapter gives further ministry as the work proceeded.